Good day everyone, I am Myra F. Gaho and I am going to present about the external factors that affects a communication or conversation under issues in social literacy. So what is social issues? Social issues are social problems that influences and is opposed by a considerable number of individuals within a society. External factors that affects a communication. Social status refers to the relative rank or standing that an individual has in the eyes of others. Position in the organization hierarchy, background, education, reputation, and power all contribute to those perception of prestige. There are two elements of social status, those attributes we are born with and those we achieve. Ascribed status is determined at birth and includes characteristics such as sex, age, race, ethnic group, and family background. Achieved status is what an individual acquires as a result of the exercise of knowledge, ability, talent, skill, and or perseverance. Employment and occupation are primary factors in social status, and in one's role in our organization and especially relevant within the boundaries of that organization. Implication of social status on communication. People often have difficulty navigating status differences when trying to inform or persuade others. To many, social status is an indicator of credibility and legitimacy, and this affects how seriously others take what one communicates. Key elements that are involved in an audience evaluation include title, reputation, and the extent to which people can identify with the communicator's motives and objectives. Status differences can create a bias against those with the perceived lower status. For example, a junior or lower level employee has to make a presentation to a group of more senior upper level managers may have difficulty keeping their attention at first even if his information and presentation skills are solid. Outsider status can also be a challenge in communication. This is commonly experienced by salespeople, vendors, and even potential employees. Noise as a barrier to communication. The efficacy of communication is impacted by how much noise there is in the communication channel. There are certain barriers to effective communication that every organization faces. These potential interruptions of the flow of information are referred to as noise. Distraction, example noise, can disrupt the flow of information between any of these five stages. This is to say, issues in communication pertaining to distraction could affect the sender, the message itself, the channel it is being sent through, or the recipient of that message. There are variety types of noise that can interfere with communication. Environmental noise. Environmental noise is a noise that physically disrupts communications, such as very loud speakers at a party or the sounds from a construction site next to a classroom. Psychological impairment noise. Physical conditions such as deafness or blindness can impede effective communication and interfere with messages being clearly and accurately received. Semantic noise. Semantic noise refers to when a speaker and a listener have different interpretation of the meanings of certain words. For example, the word weed can be interpreted as an undesirable plant in a yard or as a euphemism for marijuana. Syntactical noise. Communication can be disrupted by mistakes in grammar such as abrupt change in adverb tense during a sentence. Organizational noise. Poorly structured messages can also be a barrier. For example, a receiver who is given unclear, badly worded direction may be unable to figure out how to reach their destination. Cultural noise. Making stereotypical assumptions such as unwittingly offending a non-Christian person by wishing them a Merry Christmas can also detract from communication. Because of this, it is important that each side of a conversation understands the culture of the other party. Psychological noise. Certain attitudes can also make communication difficult. For For instance, significant anger or sadness may cause someone to lose focus on the present moment. By acknowledging and adjusting to noise, a communicator can make it more likely that their message will be received as intended. Gender and diversity. Diversity, while an important part of a strong workforce, can contribute to misconceptions that may impede communication. Differences in gender, race, religion, cultural background, age, and sexual orientation can be barriers to effective communication. Gender communication issues can strongly affect team interactions. Gender communication issues can range from differences in communication styles and perceptions to sexual harassment. Cultural issues can affect team interactions through differences in communication conventions. Intercultural competence, or the ability to communicate effectively and appropriately with individuals of another culture, requires regional expertise, empathy, and linguistic proficiency. Addressing gender and diversity from a communicative standpoint requires a high degree of empathy and understanding. A good communicator must be able to see things from the perspective of the intended recipient. Barriers to effective communication can distort a message and its intention, which may result in failure of the communication process or damage to a relationship. These barriers include filtering, selective perception, information overload, emotions, language, silence, communication apprehension, gender differences, and political correctness. Here are some reasons why conversation between two people fail. Number 1. Failure to listen. Too many people focus on the speaking part of a conversation. After all, that's the part you can control, but it's far more important to be a good listener. Being a good listener first demonstrates that you're invested in the conversation and makes the other person feel welcome to share his or her thought. Listening intently prevents interruption and other habits that can interfere with the natural pattern of conversation and provides a stable ground for mutual communication. Finally, and most importantly, listening allows you to hear and understand what the other party means, giving you context and direction for your response. Without that initial effort, the conversation will never go anywhere. Number 2. Failure to respect. According to a study from the University of California, respect is more important for long-term happiness than money or other measurable conventional factors of success. Why? Human beings are social creatures. It's innately wired in us to want to be admired and appreciated by others. When we don't get that respect from people around us, we may feel unsatisfied and withdraw from the situation. Showing respect in conversation is a prerequisite to having a healthy exchange, and even modest of subtle signs of disrespect can throw that pattern off. Obvious signs of disrespect include insulting or mocking the other party or belittling what they have to say. Subtle signs of disrespect include interruption or changing the subject before it resolves. Aim to show more respect throughout your conversation, even if you aren't doing anything intentionally disrespectful. Number 3. Failure to articulate. Sometimes, the simplest explanation for a failure conversation is the most accurate. If one party fails to express things in clear and understandable terms, it stands to reason that the other party won't have any idea what's going on. For example, if you speak incoherently or in a way that isn't well organized, the other party may be intently listening but still have difficulty following. To prevent this, work on what you want to say before the conversation if at all possible. Overly rehearsing can be a bad thing, as you'll never be able to completely predict how the conversation will go. but some preparation could help you find the right words for what you want to express. Number 4. Failure to express honestly. Communication can also fail when one party refuses to express what they're feeling or thinking honestly. It can be hard to be honest when you're under pressure or if you have a shy personality type. Think about it from the reverse perspective. When you ask someone, "What's wrong?" would you prefer that they simply pretend everything's okay when it isn't, or that they tell you bluntly what's bothering them? The latter is sometimes awkward, but much more effective in reaching resolution. Number 5. Failure to compromise. Finally, remember that all conversation involves some kind of compromise. This is especially evident when trying to resolve a problem or negotiate a deal, but also appears in more superficial conversation, such as deciding on a place to eat. That's all. Thank you so much.